Good afternoon, good morning to everyone across the globe. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar on unblocking new opportunities with GDS. I'm Edwin Saldana, the Marketing Director at STAAH. I've been with STAAH for over 9 years and quite excited to have this webinar with us with an exciting panel. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping from our end. All participants have been muted upon joining. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tab at the bottom. You've got two there at the bottom. One is a chat and one is a Q&A. We recommend to punch in your questions in the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer that. We'll have time at the end to answer all your questions. And just to make it more smooth and being non-disturbed, we recommend closing all your tabs on your web browser. So who have we got today? We've got two exciting gentlemen here from Australia. One is James Stroon, who's the GM of ANZ and Indonesia at Sabre. And our very own John Clune, the Global Development Manager for GDS at STAAH. So guys, do you want to just say hello to the team, to the people who have participated and just introduce yourself?
Sure, I can jump if you like. So as Edwin said, James from Sabre here in Sydney, and I lead the sales and account management team for Australia, New Zealand and the Indonesia market. I've been with Sabre for a couple of years, and prior to that I was with agoda.com and priceline.com in both North America and Oceania. So a bit of experience on both sides.
Over to you, John.
Hi everyone. My name's John Clune. I have a number of roles at STAAH, but an important one is the Global GDS Development Manager. I've been with STAAH for actually even a bit longer than Edwin in a couple of different roles, but I've been associated with STAAH for 11 years. But specifically, I've been responsible for GDS development since 2017. Lovely to have everybody here.
Brilliant. You know, John Clune's got the radio voice, so in case he wants to do that as a sidekick, he'll be the best bet. So John, you've been signing a few properties in this year, and apart from the many properties that you've signed up on GDS over the years, I have a question for you. Can GDS really assist properties in getting more corporate bookings?
Yeah, Edwin, first of all, thanks. The increase in our STAAH GDS hotel listings, to be fair, has been a team effort, not just from my own contribution, but a number of salespeople around the world, and particularly in the last 12 months. And in addition to that, our growth has come from our really substantial relationship with Sabre. They are our partners in this. We are the resellers and we look after the clients, but we use the Sabre platform. So I acknowledge everybody at Sabre for all the support they've given us. Today's it's not so much education. Well, it's more an educational chat. This is how I'm trying to frame this. But to your question, there is without doubt empirical evidence now that GDS travel reservations have bounced back, particularly since around about May to June last year, and that's on a global perspective. So hotels are becoming aware, how can I A, restore my business to what it was pre-COVID, or B, how can I increase it? And business travel, because of its nature, can be fairly liquid, late bookings, longer term bookings, and all that mixture mixed with flights and car rentals means GDS is an important component. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's domestic business travel within a country or whether it's crossing international borders, but there is no doubt that the growth in GDS over the last 6 to 8 months is a direct reflection that borders have changed. Airlines are now flying again, and for a hotel if they want or have business travelers, corporate travelers staying with them, they really should think about GDS as a legitimate distribution channel. Yeah.
Cool. And I think you did have few slides which I put across. As you know, I'm controlling the slides here, so maybe you want to share the slides that you sort of added on to
Of course.
GDS.
Look,
for
look, I'll just keep this
customers.
fairly. Yeah, sure. I'll keep this sort of as brief as I can because, but I am aware and sensitive to the fact that we have some of our clients already sitting in on this webinar. We have some possible competitors sitting in on this webinar, and we also have hotels that are considering whether to have GDS or whether to change GDS providers. So it's a fairly broad-based brush that I'm using. Why is STAAH partnered with Sabre? Well, 40% of the world's hotels and brands trust Sabre. Now, that's talking on a global perspective across many, many countries. And we've added to this slide in our more Oceania market, some of our very productive hotels. They're not massive in size. They're not by international standards, but GDS is proving highly productive for them. Next one, Edwin, please.
Yeah.
The reason we're looking at sorry, Edwin, I'll just bear with me a moment, please. Okay. Why STAAH GDS is partnered with Sabre, in addition to the branded trust of Sabre, the influence of Sabre is that 50% of all global GDS production comes through Sabre GDS. In other words, travel agents around the world using Sabre as their booking engine for GDS account for 50% of all the global GDS production. So we are providing our hotels with our hosting service, and we know that we are in very good hands with Sabre. We have our own account manager. We have connection with some very senior management in Sabre. Unfortunately, James has to put up with me meeting with him a few times a year as well. So we work in great harmony, and we work in concert with each other for the benefit of both parties. Yes. The important part of this is for hotels, and some of them can be small, some large, but even if they're using GDS as a distribution channel, and especially those that aren't, how does it work? Well, very quickly, there are 4 GDS systems. If you walk into any travel agent around the world, they are using one of 4 systems. Could be Sabre, which we just discussed, Amadeus, Galileo, or WorldSpan. The STAAH GDS service, we deliver rates and availability to every one of those systems. And you can see there the travel agents who are associated with them are not isolated. So any agent using any of those 4 systems can in fact see a rates and availability for a hotel. Can the hotel change those rates, manipulate their rates, put stop sells on, change their availability? Yes, they can. Okay. Very, very quickly, I'll move on to this slide, Edwin, if you don't mind, because of time, but just to put a summary to all of this, okay? Why is the GDS channel important to hotels which have corporate clients? Well, I touched on it before by the sheer growth and bounce back of GDS productivity. That's really important. Even within a country, somebody may be driving from one city to another, but they still are required to book their travel through their local travel agent. And hotels that are not on the GDS miss out on that sort of business. But to just explain quickly, GDS is only available to travel agents to book. It's a unique channel. It's got long history, but it's unique. It's different in look and feel and behavior to the booking.coms and the Expedias, etc. As I said, all travel agents, over 600,000 of them, use one of the 4 platforms in their office: Sabre, Galileo, Amadeus, or WorldSpan. The STAAH GDS hosting service, that's us, connects with all the 4 GDSs, as I mentioned before. The important thing for the hotels is to understand that many companies increasingly have a travel policy that requires employees to book their travel through their travel agent, and they book hotels, flights and car rentals and a mixture thereof. And lastly, increasingly employees at larger companies and government departments often use what's called an online booking tool that James will touch on later, that has access to the GDS to make their own reservations. So it's a diverse touch point type of system, but all of it comes down to the 4 systems having rates and availability for the travel agent, or in some cases, the government and corporate clients to book direct. Very quickly, to finish this up now, hotels, you need to have a host. You can't just say, oh, I'm available on the GDS. There has to be a host involved. And the reason STAAH GDS is a good, excellent choice really for hosting for your hotel, you have to have a host to be listed on the GDS. STAAH GDS offers what we call full service hosting. We're not the only ones who do that, but we do full service hosting. And I'll touch on that just in my last slide. We offer competitive fees and a dedicated GDS support team. And we offer access through Sabre to consortia programs and RFPs. And that's, as I said, via Sabre, and it's Sabre's business programs. Very quickly, and lastly, the introduction, we offer introduction to Sabre consortia business programs. Hotels can choose to participate. They're not obliged to, but we provide information and we guide them and discuss it with them. STAAH GDS has negotiated with Sabre a discounted participation fee and bonus offers for selected consortia programs. STAAH GDS completes and submits RFPs for its properties. Negotiated rates are loaded and audited. Renewal minders are sent to properties, which is not unique, but unusual, where we remind a hotel that your negotiated rate's expiring. And full service GDS hosting, and reminding everyone here that our GDS hosting is powered by Sabre.
So,
I think that's
John,
sort of a
what I
wrap
like
up.
what I like is the negotiated rates loaded and audited, because I think as a person who's worked in hotels before, this is something is always a good reminder sometimes, and glad that we can do this to our GDS customers.
Oh, absolutely, Edwin. Hotels are busy. They're busy because they've got lots of guests. They're busy because they're large. They're busy because they've got food and beverage, and they're busy sometimes because they don't have enough staff to cover all the roles. And a negotiated rate can just expire and they don't know any difference. So as I said, it's not unique, the service we offer, but that's an audit that we do at least twice a year for every hotel, whether they've got negotiated rates or they don't. But the main thing is the trend of GDS reservations. James can touch on that in more detail because of Sabre's massive involvement with flights and other aspects of their business. I do want to just touch on a quick question, Edwin. I won't take much of your time, James, and I apologise if I'm cutting into it. The common questions we get, Edwin, is when we're talking to hotels, they've heard that the fees are high on GDS. Well, I'm not going to do the example here now, but we are welcome to talk. We're happy to talk to any hotel that would like to talk with us, because there is a model where if you had a 2-night booking from booking.com and you had a 2-night reservation through the GDS, the hotel, I can assure them, will finish up with virtually the same net rate in their pocket after discharging their costs. So it doesn't, and the other part of that is there's a very stable fee involved with every reservation from STAAH GDS. And it doesn't matter whether you have 1, 2, 4, 5 or 6 nights booked, the fee stays the same. It doesn't increase per night, it's just for the reservation. So it's important that hotels have a balanced view. If they want GDS business, is there a cost? Yes, there is. Is it sensible and competitive? Yes, it is. So we're happy to explode that myth at any time to any hotel that would like to chat with us, Edwin. Absolutely. And the other thing is, the other question the hotels ask us regularly when we're talking to them about GDS, they want to know, can we tell them who of their local competitors are on GDS? And yes, we are, again, through some tools provided to us in our partnership with Sabre, able to do an analysis of who of their competitive set are on the GDS. So there's lots and lots of bits that we can contribute in a discussion before they sign. It's important the hotel understands how it works for them, and that can only come from, I guess, an involved and mature discussion.
And I think, John, there's something, if it's a hotel or a motel in a particular city, there's data that you can share as well in terms of the volume of GDS bookings that are in that city for that month as well, right? So them to understand that this is the chunk of business that they're potentially missing. Yeah,
yes, we can. It comes in two forms. We can run a report through our friends at Sabre for what we call Sabre room nights, and that just says how many room nights are booked. We can't get that information for all 4 systems. It's not available, but we take that data if we request it. It's not an assumed delivery, but they never reject us. And we can then do some sort of an algorithm to calculate approximately, if that's the number of nights from Sabre, this would be the total from all 4 systems. And the second thing, we also have a very close relationship with a really lovely group of people headed by a lady called Jenny Yeo from Sabre in Singapore. We can get consortia and travel management company data for that area, what sort of productions coming from the various consortia. Yes.
Cool. I think you've explained quite a bit, John, and thank you for your time. And
my
I'll
pleasure.
move across to James. I'll come back to you in the Q&A, and you can jump on if there's any questions there as well. So, James, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for the opportunity, Edwin. Thank you.
Yeah, in your busy schedule. In terms of what prospective trends are you seeing post-pandemic with Sabre? I think you guys are the massive data that you've got with all your systems. So keen to hear about that.
Sure, there are a few. I've got a few air insights from our air intelligence team that we'll have a look at in a moment. But I think one of the key things we're observing, and this is what John alluded to earlier, is that the expectation for corporate bookers to always book in the GDS now is a key trend. Previously, companies were more lax about saying, okay, well, this type of a booking or an international booking or something must happen in the GDS, where the rest of it domestically perhaps just go to an OTA or go to the hotel directly. So what we're seeing now is companies expect people to put all of their travel into the GDS, and that's for 3 main reasons. There is obviously all the safety tracking that is involved, and the GDS of course links up to many of the international SOS programs that help to ensure travelers when they're on the road. There is corporate travel policy adherence, which John mentioned earlier. And then of course, there's the most obvious one, which is cost control. So the system can dictate which flights you can take, how much you can spend per night on a hotel in a given city, and so forth. So that's probably the greatest trend that we've seen coming off the back of COVID. But if I may, I'll jump in first and with a quick slide to just talk through what exactly Sabre is around the world, because it is a large organization. Sabre is known primarily as the original GDS, and it still remains the world's largest. However, we are now broken up into 3 main business areas that you can see on your screen now. So what we have is travel solutions, which is basically the GDS and all of its onward distribution around the world and the management of travel agent relationships. You've got in the middle there airline solutions, which provides technology to hundreds of airline partners around the world. Think central reservation systems, bookings, check-in, crew scheduling, route optimization, gate allocation at airports. All of that can be done on the Sabre cloud. And then last but not least is Sabre Hospitality Solutions, which is where we fit in. And we deliver technology to over 40,000 hotels around the world. Again, CRS, GDS, Access, GDS Media, etc., etc. So that is the composition globally of Sabre. The GDS, there are a number of synergies between the goals of hoteliers and travel agents that we find. Generally, agents want efficiency, they want reliability and choice, while hoteliers want high visibility, far-reaching distribution, and of course, a solid conversion. Next slide. Another thing to consider is that we talk a lot about agents when it comes to the GDS, people sitting behind desks and actually making reservations in the GDS, but it's also important to remember the GDS onward distributes as well to many corporate self-booking tools. John mentioned that earlier. There are a few logos on the screen there to give you an idea, but one example is Get There, which is actually a Sabre product. And another division of Sabre would sell that product into corporations, and that would give them an automated web-based platform to allow employees to book their travel, air, ground transfers, hotels, etc., in a controlled environment that can be tracked and also honouring adherence to corporate travel policies. So it's important to consider that it's not just the people behind desks, it's also systems out there that corporates use. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll take a look at a couple of slides on the market insights from Sabre's Air Intelligence. So on first glance, this is quite a busy slide, but what we're looking at here, firstly, it's multiple markets across Asia Pacific. We're looking at domestic travel only, and we're looking at an activity period of the second 2 weeks of November of last year. So during those second 2 weeks of November last year, for example, in India at the top, 52% of all air bookings were made for the month that they were booking in. For example, again, looking at India, during those 2 weeks of November 2022, 8% of air bookings were made for January of this year, 2023. The first row, as you can see, is the blue and net bookings, and purple are shops, which is people searching, obviously, for a particular routing. And just to clarify, down the left side, the legend down the left, you've got India, Malaysia, Australia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, and of course, New Zealand. So that's the domestic view. And if you jump across to the next one, you've got a similar view for international markets across APAC, where obviously the key difference that you'll notice there is that booking and search behavior is happening further in advance than it was for domestic travel. Just to clarify, do you want to just quickly jump back? Sorry. Yep. Thank you. Just to make sure everyone's clear on the left-hand side there, Japan, Korea, you've got India to the US. And again, these are not, they're not direction specific. They are between the two countries as it is. Korea and Vietnam, Korea and Thailand, Japan, Taiwan, United Arab Emirates and India, Korea and the Philippines, Korea and the US, Japan, the US, and finally the UK and India down the bottom. Next slide. So here we're looking at a period of September, October, and November 2022, last year. These charts show you the markets, domestic on the left, or the international country pairs on the right, that saw the largest week-over-week increase in air shops compared to bookings versus shops. It's important to flag, as again, like I said earlier, that these are non-directional and the charts are based off different scales, but they give you a bit of an idea as to the correlation between the two. So we'll now take a look at some of the GDS best practices that you can consider when it comes to your presence in the GDS and the reasons why that might be the case. So the first thing is that GDS city searches are generally always conducted by airport code, not city. And I say that while on the screen there is an example of London versus, for example, London Heathrow or London Gatwick. That's because cities with multiple airports, there is a central designator like LON for London or NYC for New York City. So whenever you see as well in the GDS the location, there might be a miles or kilometers next to each hotel listing, then this is always from the airport that's been searched for, not from the city centre or the general post office, which sometimes happens on some platforms. Cool. Yep, we've been over that. Next one. So the number one question that we often get is how do I appear at the top? So as it says at the top there, hotel ranking is completely randomized as to where the property will appear. However, there are programs that you can be involved in, you can subscribe to separately to help influence with preferencing. And that can be done through our GDS media. If you have any questions or like to know more about ranking in the GDS with preferencing, then reach out to John and co at STAAH, and they can help guide you to the right direction. Crown in the GDS star ratings, as we know them, are known as crown ratings, although there is the logo of a star. As with any distribution platform, ensure that crown ratings are kept up to date following refurbishments, rebrands, etc. like that, and make sure they're consistent across as many platforms as possible, as any form of inconsistency between the GDS and other platforms can cause agents to simply skim over your property and book another one where there is that consistency. Sabre introduced the Stay Safe indicator, the little blue crest that you can see there in 2020 to highlight properties' enhanced policies and procedures in the face of COVID-19. With corporates who are always looking to ensure employee safety, don't be surprised if there are corporate programs that pop up where hotels that with the shield must be booked. And that again, as I said, it highlights the heightened cleaning and safety standards. Any questions about this or to help make sure it's set up, then reach out to the team at STAAH. One more thing I wanted to flag here was automatic rate sequencing. So the Sabre GDS will automatically sequence the rates. This might seem super obvious that the cheapest rate appears first, but across other GDSs, it doesn't happen automatically like it does in Sabre. So it is worth making sure that your rate sequencing is correct, because you could have a $500 a night suite in the top position, and unfortunately that would make the property immediately look more expensive when comparing multiple hotels in one agent screen. It goes without saying the GDS is obviously a marketplace for agents. This is their bread and butter. The little green dot that you see there highlighted in the red box shows an agent that a rate is commissionable. If they hover over that, it'll tell them what that commission may be. They're here to make money, so it's obvious that a commission is what they're after. If it's not a green dot, it's a grey dot, and that indicates that there is no commission payable on that particular room type. Consortia and public rates should typically be commissionable in the GDS, and it goes without saying you want to make sure that as much as you possibly can offer has some sort of earning for the agent, because that's what they're ultimately looking for. Amenities or facilities, as we would know them, are considered a search qualifier throughout the GDS. So if a property, for example, has a swimming pool and the box isn't checked and it's not set up with a swimming pool, then that property will not show if an agent does a search where they do require a swimming pool. It's not like OTAs where you'll be ranked further down the page. It simply won't show. So it is vital to make sure that all of your amenities are up to date. On the right there, you can see an example of a best-in-class amenity list. Obviously, you're not going to check boxes that don't exist, but it gives you a bit of an idea as to what is possible. The other thing to consider when it comes to representing in the GDS is that if you're able to put your city name as part of the hotel, it is beneficial in searches. So for an example, here in Sydney, Australia, the Sheraton Grand Sydney Hyde Park is going to appear more often than if it was simply known as the Sheraton Grand Hyde Park. So it's just a small thing. If you're in a position to include it, then it's advisable to do so. This screenshot just shows you a grab of what it looks like when a Wi-Fi filter is applied to this particular London search. As I mentioned earlier, if it's not checked, then the property would not show if that is a requirement as part of the search. This next one is a listing. It looks very busy, but these are search qualifiers that are from an undisclosed market that provided by one of our teams to give an idea of what agents use mostly to qualify searches relative to other qualifiers in the GDS. So the two red boxes there that you can see on the left, searching by property name or searching by a chain or brand, are the things that tend to rate higher than others. However, this is obviously a snapshot of one particular market. I've also included here additional descriptions of special qualifiers that agents use throughout the GDS. I understand, Edwin, that this deck will be shared afterwards, so I've included that as a user reference. Next slide. It's important to make sure each property's geo coordinates are up to date or positioning on a map, as these are used for map positioning, location searches, and also the distance from point of interest searches. For example, a corporate office, you might say, okay, I want the guest to stay within 1 mile or 3 kilometers of a given address or a point of interest, and that allows to make sure that happens. With the focus often on OTA parity, it's easy to overlook ensuring the same rate appears in the GDS. Many agents booking on behalf of corporates are routinely audited to make sure that they are booking the best rate available at a given property. So if a property has inconsistent pricing, it's far easier for the agent to simply skim over to the next hotel where there is that consistency in case they are audited by the corporate. Understandably, agents won't book outside the GDS, as I mentioned earlier, because this is their bread and butter. So it's important to make sure it's as clear as possible. Okay, on this slide, so in a survey, over 90% of Sabre GDS agents state that they check ratings and reviews on TripAdvisor and other platforms during the booking process. So it's important to make sure that these are as accurate as possible, making sure that if there is a negative review posted online, that the hotel addresses or responds to that, to at least explain it or justify or apologize or something to that effect, because they're obviously booking on behalf of other people. So with that being the case, they want to make sure there's a heightened sense of making sure that they book the best accommodation possible if they are advising corporates or clients. So a quick recap, ensure where possible that a stay safe indicator is activated. Make sure your GDS rates are in order on all GDS platforms. Amenities are very important and as they act as qualifiers in searches. Parity of rates, both rate and availability across the GDS with other channels is also extremely important. And of course, indirectly making sure that ratings and reviews are up to scratch and addressed. That's it.
Cool. James, I've been using GDS for many years and attended many presentations. And let me tell you that every time I attend something or listen to people from Sabre, I sort of get 1 or 2 tips which I sort of learn along the way. So I can imagine the vast magnitude of Sabre that you've got to share often that people can learn. So thank you for that. No problem. Just for everybody's attention, we've got a GDS playbook which we are releasing at this webinar. This is a playbook based on all our thoughts. John has played an important role, as well as notes from Sabre to guide properties on maximizing bookings through Sabre. And we will send this as a free download to you post this webinar. So thank you for sort of participating. You will get this playbook before we share it with the rest of the audience across the globe. They'll only get it next month. So we'll share this across. We have time for Q&A. As we said, we wanted to make this more interactive. We got participation from John as well as James sharing their insights. So if you've got any questions, you can punch it on the Q&A. Be happy to answer that and share that as well. And we do our best in answering that. John and James, with the years of experience that they've got with Sabre, can always sort of pitch in and answer that. So feel free to post that question. So I'm just looking at it.
Yep.
And I've got one here. Oh, somebody
Edwin,
says good morning from Oman.
Sorry, Edwin, just while you're touching base on that, I just wanted to defer back to some slides that James had with what constitutes the best listing, or constitutes giving a hotel the very best chance to be booked. And I'm really proud of the team that works sort of with me, I guess, to ensure that the listings are as best possible for any hotel that's choosing STAAH GDS as its host. And we stay very close to Sabre on what the latest and greatest requirements are in those listings. So sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I went back to the slides thinking you're going to share something. I'll go back to
No, I was just talking to the generality there.
Cool. All right. And we've got somebody from Oman saying good morning from Oman. So that's fantastic. Why is STAAH GDS low in EMEA at 12.9%? James, have you got an answer for that? This is from Sam.
Sorry, I was taking myself off mute. So I'm understanding there that it's referring to Sabre's hotel
overall
across EMEA. That ultimately, Sabre leads most regions around the world, with the exception of Europe, where our key competitor Amadeus is based. So they tend to produce more hotel reservations on average across that part of the world than we do. It is growing, but again, that's not, Europe is I guess you'd say, the last frontier for Sabre, being originally an American company. Amadeus, I believe, are based in Madrid. So that's where that comes from.
And just to add to that, James, the hotels in Oman, it doesn't matter whether the agent is using any of the 4 systems. That Oman-based hotel is bookable. This just reflects of the percentages contributed by the Sabre using agents. So not trying to confuse the hotels at all. No.
Oh, that's a good question. And there's another one by Abdul. What is the booking percentage of GDS in this market? Probably that's answered, I assume. Abdul, in which market are you talking about? I think that's important to understand because we do not know which area are you from, which city are you from. So if you can just punch that. Somebody has put in anonymous saying, Abdul says in Oman, and I think you just answered that, James, in terms of GDS productivity in EMEA.
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you, Abdul, and salam from this part of the world, and thank you for attending. I've got another question. It says, how good is GDS in India, especially B-tier cities like Ahmedabad, Indore, Chandigarh? I think that's a good question in there, because we have few attendees from India on this webinar.
You want me to take that, or do you? Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I don't have specific data on exactly how good the GDS is in tier B Indian cities in front of us now. I do know that India continues to rapidly come on board the global distribution system. The continued rise of corporate India as well means that there are more corporations that are leaning toward controlling and managing corporate business travel through such platforms as the GDS. And we do see that through the continued adoption of our Get There product that I mentioned earlier. So while I don't have specifics, I can't speak to specifics. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it was getting stronger by the day. But your biggest key business cities, as well as to address someone else's question there, the largest global hotel brands typically are the ones that generate, understandably, the most production in the GDS, but the rest of it is on the rise.
Just Sorry, John, go ahead. No, just if you don't, I just want to add to James's comment there. This is part of, you may remember earlier in this presentation or webinar, I've talked about dialogue and understanding the hotels. And that's where Sabre is so helpful to us, where we can show the hotels production and we can do it year one compared to year two, etc. Balancing that out, that all hotels globally had a little holiday, so to speak, with the COVID thing. But yes, dialogue, stats are there to discuss with them, whether they're talking directly to Sabre or they're talking to a service host like us. Yes.
Cool. Is there somewhere where this person can get in touch with our team as well, and then we can sort of guide them as well on
yes.
data? Which
it depends what market the hotels are in. The lovely gentleman from Oman, he could talk to Jai, who's based in Dubai, Middle East, and if Jai needs that information, we can provide it to him and therefore to that hotel, that client. The same for the Indian salespeople, etc. Yes.
Cool. So the one who's asked is anonymous in terms of B-tier cities. We're happy to share that information along with our Sabre team. So get in touch with our team member in India and we can sort of guide you through this process. There's another question in here, and I like a few questions in there, which says, are you seeing shift happening where hotels are getting into direct connect with OTAs rather than GDS, since more bookings are flowing through OTAs? I think that's always a question asked. So, yeah. James, maybe you want to answer that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, hotels are going to be the most qualified at commenting on the shift or the trend that they see when it comes to whether an OTA is generating more production versus the GDS. As I said, the GDS isn't for every hotel, nor is the GDS also for every market around the world. However, what we can comment on is that, for example, we have pretty in-depth partnerships, or the Sabre GDS has pretty in-depth partnerships with both the Expedia Group, currently Booking.com, and also soon Agoda, where those OTA platforms will actually feed their rates and availability through to the Sabre GDS to give agents basically a one-stop shop for everything. The benefit of that, of course, is that if a property isn't appearing, then at least that they're being captured by the OTA representation. So that does allow agents the ability to book hotels in cities that traditionally wouldn't have been on the GDS. So we also, as I said earlier, the Synexus platform that Sabre operates for hotels as well is something where we also have direct connect partnerships with the OTAs. So I would say that they're probably more partners of ours, if anything, than competitors. The trend that we do see are the corporates who once upon a time were much more lax about where a booking was made, be it a flight or a hotel or a car rental reservation. They're now dictating that much more of it goes through the trackable and controllable nature of the GDS. So that is one trend that we do see.
Brilliant. I hope this answered a question. There's a last one from Jay. He's based in UAE. He says, how relevant is GDS platform for non-branded hotels, and how Sabre GDS can benefit these independent hotels in respective markets in there?
Yeah, I think
that's a relevant question here.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. In fact, like I said earlier, and we'd say it to any customer, is that traditionally the global brands, especially the American global brands, they traditionally always did the most production through the global distribution system by the very nature of the brand name. So it's to be expected that they would generate more. They obviously have massive loyalty followings among corporate travelers. Having said that, the thousands and thousands of other hotels around the world that are on the GDS today that aren't part of a global brand, they wouldn't be still on the GDS if they weren't experiencing bookings and booking growth from the platform. So while I don't have specific data to share in front of me, brands do very, very well. However, there is also a market for independent properties, especially when they're well represented, like John said earlier, with the content and their listing and everything.
we've seen in the past as well. I think John and myself have seen in the past. We've few chain hotel groups who have broken from the chain and wanted to be independent and moved to us on the GDS platform and seen success as well. And over the years, we can see their bookings grow as well. So we've seen them live in terms of the bookings too. So sometimes obviously the proof of pudding is seeing it in reality. So we've seen that grow too.
And just to add also,
last one.
If I may, Edwin, just quick one comment on that. As I said before we started, I came from for over a decade with Agoda and also Priceline.com in North America. And when I was there, I was much more ignorant towards the reach and the significance of the GDS. I thought the GDS was a dying dinosaur, frankly, to be quite honest. And then I joined Sabre and actually looked at the numbers and looked at what was going on behind the scenes technologically. And it's very, very, very opposite to my original ignorant understanding. So I think having the context of the two is super important when it comes to explaining what's possible with it.
So you're baptized back again.
Yes, positive influence.
So just the last one, in terms of providing business to the hotel industry, do CRS and GDS function in the same way? What is the significance if they both work the same way?
Great question, and it's understandably confusing. So to be clear, when we talk about the GDS or global distribution system, we're talking about the platform that was, in our case, Sabre, was originally founded by American Airlines, a joint venture between American Airlines and IBM in 1960, and it became the first way for travel agents around the world to be able to go to a computer terminal and place an airline reservation, check whether there was a seat available, see what the fare is, and then lock in that seat. Prior to that, it was a telephone call to a reservations desk to see what was happening, and then that reservations agent would put a little card on a rack to show that seat 5B on a flight between New York and Boston was occupied. So that's the way it used to operate before the GDS. The GDS now has evolved into a platform that allows agents as well as all the corporates to make bookings on flights, in hotels, car rental, cruises, ground transfers, you name it, and bundle it all together into a single PNR or a passenger name record. So that's the GDS. It's a distribution tool whereby CRS or central reservation system is, in our case, in the cloud. In some other operators' case, it's an on-site piece of technology that basically allows you to centrally manage the reservations that are coming and going from your property. So they're two different things. Obviously, a booking that is made on the GDS, because you're on the GDS, would drop into your CRS or central reservation system when it's confirmed, allowing you to have a record as a central point of record. So two different systems, but understandably with all the acronyms, they can get confusing.
Just to talk to that point a fraction more, Edwin, if I could, the role of again, a channel manager in that space as well. So because we know the animal, and indulge me, I'll talk about STAAH for a minute. The hotels need to be educated, and we try and do our best with that to say, hey, look, you can set your GDS rates, make sure they're competitive, make sure there's parity with Booking.com and Expedia, but you can adjust your rate for big events. You can use minimum nights. It's not trying to think of the word here. It's not a dormant system. It can be as dynamic as a hotel wants to. And the other thing is the hotels also need to drive, and we try to encourage this, to reach out to their, historically they may know this, to have a relationship with the agents to book them in preference. So there's lots of work in that space so that the relationship, it's the hotel that can drive their as much corporate, or they can be as dormant as they like and have no GDS business, I guess. But that's really up to the hotel. And I know Sabre works with their direct clients, and I know we do, and will always do so, to guide them, educate them, encourage them, not because of GDS being simply the silver bullet, but it should be in their distribution mix because it is legitimate. as a distribution channel. Would you agree on that, James? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, you've hit the nail on the head very well there, John.
Okay, Edwin.
Great. I think we had a great set of questions asked there. And I hope that this has given a bit of perspective from your end. You've got the handsome looking John Clune here, based in New South Wales in Australia. In case you need to get in touch or ask him anything on GDS, we're happy to answer these questions. So feel free to get in touch with him. We look forward to getting you on board if you're interested on GDS. We've got hundreds of properties live already on GDS. So if that's something which you want to look at, feel free to get in touch with him. And I really do appreciate you taking the time on this busy morning or afternoon in there to attend this webinar. So on behalf of the STAAH team, I'd like to thank you and have a nice day. And thanks, John and James. Good to have this chat. I like this a bit informal and sharing this information. And though we are in various parts of the world, we could get this all together.
Been my pleasure, Edwin.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.